was meeting one another for the first time in terms of business partner to principal. I'll never forget Lawson said to me, it was like that blind date, that exciting moment. So will we connect, won't we connect, sensing and getting to know one another. So Zandy, thinking back to that first meeting and the next few meetings that followed, what were your initial thoughts and experiences of your new partnership?
Thank you, Jackie. Hi, everyone. I had the same feelings that we had, the fear of the unknown. During our first meeting in Westville, I still remember very well, and I'm also glad we touched on that one as well. I was very nervous as well, not knowing what to expect, and also not knowing who my partner would be and the kind of person the partner would be. Is it a he or a she? Is she or he sociable? Will he or she be able to listen to my stupid questions as well as I was very nervous. Is she going to listen to me if I relate, or I'm scared to death, or vice versa? Those were the kind of questions I was asking myself. Little did I know that I'm going to meet this lovely, young, beautiful lady, young as she is, but very intelligent. Can age is just a number, but what this lady has is very powerful. We shared a lot in our meetings, one-on-one, but the most that I shared, I cherished is the meetings that we had together. Yes, of course, the chair and the other meetings I appreciated and loved because they empowered me, but the ones that I had, because sometimes I would tell her, you know what, Londeka, somebody said something in the meeting, but I couldn't understand it. We used to share ideas, reflecting on the meetings and even the workshops that we had, talking about them in a more relaxed atmosphere. Maybe we are wimpy or California dreaming. You name them, quite a lot of them. She's gifted. She has a wonderful gift of a skill of listening. She is very good in listening, and not only listening, but she also gave me guidance, support, and young as she is, I'm shocked. I was shocked, but she, as we move along, as I was scared in the beginning, oh, what Jack is doing to me? She's giving me such a young. What am I going to do with a child? Because now working here, I need somebody who will hold my hand. I am the principal of the school. What is she doing to me? But she's very good, and she's always smiling. Even if I talk stupid things to her, she doesn't show. Now, there's a lot that I can say. And she also visited, not only the meetings outside the school, she also visited the school several times. And at one stage, she brought in her bosses from Spa. They visited our school, they wanted to see the functionality of the school. So I was also delighted. But the day of my visit to Spa was very enjoyable. I visited where she works, and everybody welcomed me with a very I received a warm welcome. Even the spark bosses and the entire staff. And I was fortunate that day because she had a party in her department. So I ended up, we went like it was. And when I went there, she planned my visit. I was not bored, although it was enjoyable, relaxed, but I learned a lot. Firstly, the HR, Durban. Hey, Zandy.
Robin.
In Lions and London.
She did a psychometric assessment.
Yeah, where I had to answer 200 questions. What's that called? Psychometric. Testing my brain. How I think, how I relate to other people. You see, I was scared when I started, but the report that came out, I like it. I wish that everybody can get it, but they also promised that it's going to be done at school for the entire staff, and they will also do the developmental workshops. And I even went to the busiest place in the workshop. So I thank PfP for the journey that I had, that hooked me with this lovely partner. And I hope we partner for life. Even after my retirement, we still have friends. And I have also learned from this journey the skill that the problems or the challenges that we have in our work, in our schools, will never go away. We have to learn to live with them and work with them, but we also find a way to work around them, to improve and to try and minimize them, although they will always be there, but they become manageable. So I thank this lady and I thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Zandy. Thank you. Londeka, I loved our one-on-ones. You shared so generously what was shifting, what was changing for you. So as we sit here today, what is it that you would like to share with the group around your personal shifts and changes?
Hi everyone, hi Zandy. I think for me, walking into the PfP journey, I didn't know what to expect. I remember our first couple of meetings with Zandy, I was pretty much like him with my diary and saying, give me what your problems are, then I'll see how much of them I can kind of take off the list. And I didn't expect to walk away with so much personal growth as well. Just from the principles that we've learned from even some of the workshops that we've had in time to think, that really allowed me to look at me as a person and kind of reflect on some of the things that were highlighted in those workshops. And it was kind of like a shift and a growth for me as an individual, a shift and a growth for Zandy and for us as a partnership as well. One of the things that I was struggling with when I started the journey was I was fairly new at SPA and managing a team of 32 individuals, and I'm the youngest person on the team. And when I say youngest, I mean at least 5 to 10 year gap. My oldest member on my team is 64 years old, and when we had the party, it was because one of them was actually retiring. And I think just the dynamics around, the people spectrum and the expectations even within the team, and the understanding and the contracting even with myself and some of the team members, I saw that really start to shift once I changed the way that I was choosing to show up. So that was one of the things that We learned quite a bit, and we highlighted in our journeys that very often it's very easy to look outside for the problems, but not look at how are you showing up in this space, and maybe other people are just responding to the way that you're coming across. And I found that once I changed that, everything kind of changed. Everything kind of changed. The guys on my team that I was finding a bit resilient, they started to get along with me a bit more, and the team as a whole started to then shift and get along and have like a completely different energy. So that for me was a major growth point in terms of how am I showing up, and I just became more conscious of that, of how am I responding when somebody is coming at me with a problem. Am I adding to that problem, or am I kind of diffusing that situation? So as much as I can't control the next person, but I can control me, and how am I showing up in that space? So that has really helped me with my team, and I've found that we now have such a good relationship. Some of the guys that I thought were a bit quiet are now chatting more and just having like more meaningful interactions. So for me, that was a very vital part of the journey, and working very closely with Zandy as well. It kind of then made me see that some of the challenges that I'm facing, it's not just because I'm a young person, but it's challenges that you do face in management, because very often we shared quite a bit, where she'd say she's having a similar challenge, or she'd highlight some things, and I'd say, you know, I'm also going through that. So that was quite a nice interaction, and getting to learn from Zandy. One of the things that I really enjoyed in the journey was building our relationship that we have. So we spent quite a lot of time together, and initially it was a bit of a challenge, but I mean, both of us just kind of said, if we commit to a date, unless we're in hospital, we're showing up. And it's literally been about that, where we'll say, okay, we've committed to this date, and we just have to keep on showing up. And the nice thing as well, I think I want to mention Flawless Consulting. Flawless Consulting was also a major shift for me, just because sometimes when you contract initially with a person, and you actually evaluate that relationship, and you say, actually, I don't like how we are interacting. And kind of what I learned from there was, it's okay to then go back and say, this is where we are, I don't really like this place, and how do we then move to a place where we want to be? And I found myself doing it, not even in the work environment, but also in my own personal space, to kind of then have those quite difficult conversations, but have them in kind of a positive spirit to say, you know, I don't like X, Y, and Z, and this is where I'd really like us to be, and how do we then get there? So that was something that was very beneficial for me. And one of the things that I think I picked up and I shared in our one-on-ones, Jackie, is maybe towards the end of the journey is when you really kind of start to put pieces together of the whole puzzle, because the journey is kind of broken up into a workshop here, a workshop there, an individual meeting with your partner, my meeting with the learning process facilitator, and our triad, and you don't really see where it's going up until like the last quarter or so, where you're like, these are all pieces of a puzzle that have kind of supported me and made me a business partner that can really show up in this partnership and give something that is of value. So, I mean, I was even saying that you can't really, because it feels like dots, that you're taking a step here, a step there, a step there, and every time you're just committing and showing up, but you really just kind of connect the dots after you've kind of taken those steps. So that's what for me has been really special about the journey, not just only connecting with Zandy or with Jackie, but connecting with everybody in our community as well, and just drawing from their energy and their wealth of experience. So it's been a special journey.
Thank you for sharing. So, and from the heart. You've reminded me of a few things, and thank you.